And we are live. Welcome to Pontiac Power Hour, episode 16, with special guest, Dudes with Wrenches. And I can't do that justice, but
Dudes with Wrenches.
maybe we could talk him into doing one when he comes in. But I'm Buff from Buff's Garage.
I'm Ray with Puncher Lamont's Garage.
And this is just part of our, Christmas specials, our full month of December of basically giving back to you guys. We are trying to bring you special guests, and I think we landed a pretty good one today.
I'd say so. You guys definitely entertaining.
For sure. So let's hit the chat real quick. We got a few names popping up here. We had a few that came in early, but I've got Tim. You can't have Mopar without Tim. We got Cousin Mike from Landon Custom Classics, Hunter, Sand Mountain Ballistics. Let's see. I know I saw Barrows. Yep, there he is. Irish is in the house. Let's see. Mr. Polo, C4. Mongrels is here, all the way from Canada. Jason's Garage. And Colleen Tebow. And we're going to have more rolling in as we go. So how's your week?
Busy. Preparing for the holidays. Trying to work on this Fiero that's now taking up space in my garage.
I understand, but that Camaro or that Fiero is going to be pretty awesome when it's done.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. Probably a little too fast for the kid that's going to be driving it, but
well, we'll put his supercharged 3.8 against my supercharged 3.8 and see what happens.
He definitely wants to do a call out race.
All right, we're going to do it. So if you guys don't know, I have a 98 Grand Prix that was donated to my channel. It is a supercharged GTP, and his son now has a Fiero with a 3.8 supercharged V6 in it, which is just incredible. Oh, Dr. Art's here too.
The guy he bought it from has spent a lot of money on it. Like the whole subframe's been powder coated. Like it's got Beretta GT brake upgrade.
So really, you guys got the good end of this. He spent all the money, and you just get to finish it.
Yeah, and like everything's bolted in. I got to finish the wiring. I had to figure out the clutch, and I had to build the air intake. The stuff I like to do.
Right. Well, should we welcome our guests?
I think so.
Oh, let's do that little intro. Stand by.
Hey, Dudes with Wrenches here. Ka-cha! Dudes with Wrenches here. Dudes with Wrenches here. Ka-cha! Hey, how you doing? Dudes with Wrenches here. Oh, hey there. Dudes with Wrenches here.
All right, let's jump right into this. We got here a C1200 1968 International.
And with that, we're welcoming Dudes with Wrenches.
Here we are.
Here we are. We got to get one.
Oh, you want the intro, do you?
We got to have
Well, we
it.
saw it a few times, right back
Yeah,
there.
we got to do it again.
Oh. Dudes with Wrenches here.
Perfect. That's what we wanted right there. All
It's,
right. So
it's almost like you've done that before.
Oh, so many times. See, what people don't realize is when you're editing all these videos, how many times you listen to yourself say that, to where it's just like you're always just saying it in the back of your head somewhere, maybe going slightly insane over it. But hey, as long as everybody else is getting on board.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely catchy, and the right combination of teaching me something while also entertaining me. That's a good thing, and that's obviously why you've skyrocketed in subs and super popular on the YouTube.
Oh yeah. We're not trying to be the famous person or even the big guy in the room, but it sure seems to be working out. So we're just gonna keep doing it. So
Absolutely. And you said you got a little snow going on. How's your life?
well, I'm trying to get a garage back to where I can use it again, which has been about a month process. Everything kind of got put away for winter, so projects kind of came to a screech and halt. And yeah, we're just cleaning the garage and rearranging it and potentially building some kind of studio that looks like this, but in a stationary position that doesn't have to be moved around 5 times.
Oh,
So
right.
Well, my studio is in my kids' bedroom. This is actually their closet door. So,
Yeah.
It's a quiet room in the house.
oh, this
Not
is
me.
the
I'm
garage.
front and center, man. I'm just right in the kitchen with
Yeah.
a giant Pontiac flag on my wall because
Pontiac.
got to do it. All right. So obviously going from, weren't you part of that Volvo build?
I was earlier this year in April. Me and a bunch of other YouTube channels. Well, me
Yeah.
took a Volvo out of a field that was definitely destined for a crusher because we had no plans of that ever making it to the top of the project list. And we took it all the way to Arkansas after cleaning it and doing a bunch of other things to it, and got with stuff with Cletus was the main channel. He ended up with the car if you want to go check it out. And we stuffed a 6-liter in there in 6 days and some change potentially. And yeah, that was a full LS swap build from literally nothing to everything in a week. So it was a lot of hours. We all went down there with this intention of like, hey, we're gonna hang out. It's gonna be a good time, and it was a good time. But at the end of it, it was like, we definitely built a car because that's a lot of days.
That's when I really started, watching a lot of the YouTube channels. Was I saw this live build and I thought, what am I watching? And it's just a bunch of dudes hanging out building a car, which was awesome. And so my first real introduction to you guys, and of course, the beginning of when I started following No Name Nationals and everything that came along with that, was right there. I got to see all you guys building a car, and I thought, well, this is like a fun group of people. And it turns out you guys are.
Well, and I was trying to make it to No Name Nationals. I had a car that I really had some intentions of taking there because if I'm going to go there, I'm going to bring something that maybe goes a little fast. And then I wiped the cam out on the motor in it, and that's when I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't have time or the money to be slamming this thing back together and potentially just breaking it all over again. So we're just going to maybe cancel the whole No Name Nationals, and there was 50 other things going on. So
Hey, breaking something at the No Name Nationals was the trend.
yeah, that's what I heard.
I probably was one of the few that left with a running car, but I didn't bring a running car, so it kind of worked out.
My car still ran, Buff.
It didn't move very far.
It moved. There may or may not have been a bunch of pieces of third gear in the transmission binding up
It
the
sounded
gears.
like you had a little gravel going on. But you know what? You're right. It did run. It was able to get on the trailer.
Yeah, and they were all still in the transmission. I mean, that's important, right?
So this guy right here says things broke at the No Name Nationals, won the award for broken things at the No Name Nationals.
He didn't like that big block anyway.
I think he did though.
And Irish was good. That he didn't break anything at No Name. He waited till he left.
Well, see, I have a knack for breaking things in general. I don't really ever need to go to something like No Name Nationals to do it. So, yeah, I'd have to pretty much build a car and not touch it and then take it there because that's like my way it wouldn't break before getting there.
I think there's a lot of people that learned that lesson this year. And so we have 2023. If you are free and have a vehicle available, it would be a great time.
Potentially. potentially that could happen in the near future. I'm looking at potentially buying some engine parts, but as many of us, specifically me, I own entirely too many projects. And when you spread out the little bit of money you have across like 15 things don't ever really get done. And you just think about them a lot, I guess.
I felt good because I was at 8 cars. I let one out of the the horde, and I was like, I'm feeling really good. And then the guy says, "Hey, do you want a Pontiac Grand Prix? I'll give it to you." So now I'm back up to 8 cars again.
Free? How are you going to turn that down?
I didn't, obviously.
I don't like to admit it, but I'm one of those closet lovers of supercharged 3800s. But I've learned my lesson owning many of them and breaking all of them.
Yep.
Like they're just not for me because I'm going to break them. They
Yep.
cost just as much money as an older car. And at the end of the day, the older car is probably worth more. So I'm going to throw my money at those.
I don't know what it is with me and Pontiacs, Grand Prix, or just weird cars in general, but I seem to be the collector of all.
Well, there you go.
So speaking of Pontiacs, what would you say is your favorite Pontiac?
My favorite Pontiac. That's hard.
I know, because you got a lot of cool cars. There's no doubt.
And I have a love-hate relationship with Pontiacs because I, too, owned Grand Prix GTP, and we still have another one that my brother-in-law owns. And that car soured Pontiac for me pretty good. But if I was going to just pick one and say this is the one, it would probably be 66 GTO. I mean,
solid choice.
Yeah,
Yep, for
it's
sure.
a good all-around car.
All right.
Pontiac.
So you came up in popularity pretty quick. Was it during the pandemic that when things really blew up for you, or was it?
Nope. I actually started doing YouTube because of the pandemic, and up until July of this year,
You were
we were
sitting
sitting
at
at
700 when in July.
700 in July,
Yep.
and now we're coming up on 97,000. So whatever, it's fine.
It went in 1 month. It went from 700 to just it just took off.
So you're like a Cinderella story for YouTube.
Yeah, I'm the you can't compare yourself to anybody. People ask how you did it, and I'm like, it's never going to work the way I did it for anyone, except for like this very small percentage of people. And I can't even tell you if it's really working yet per se, because I still don't know what I'm doing. So it's just kind of one of those. We're just doing it, and we're going to keep riding it. And there is a lot of changes coming down the pipe that we hope people will enjoy.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, we're just going to keep doing projects and spreading out facts and spreading the love of vehicles, hopefully, and maybe not upset too many people in the process.
Yeah, I would agree. There's no clear-cut formula for sure because
No.
What worked for like Kevin with Junkyard Digs doesn't work for Dalton. Dalton went from almost no subs to, hey, I got a holy goat, and it took off, right?
Yep.
But I will tell you, I've had a few little successes, and granted, I still don't have a lot of subs, but I've got solid subs, the ones that just keep coming back, and that's important. And then I've got somebody like Dalton who will send me a Snapchat and be like, hey, you want some advice on your video? Yes, I do. And he'll send some ideas out. So it's nice to have a YouTube mentor to kind of at least guide me in that direction.
Well, and I've had a lot of questions from people on shorts. And, I'm more than willing to tell everybody what I'm doing. But the problem is, I mean, it's so many different things together for each channel that makes a channel good.
Right.
You can't just, hey, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to have a catchphrase, and I'm going to do this, and, it doesn't work for everybody. I know a lot of guys, people send me these ones all the time. It's like, look, this guy's doing the same thing you're doing. I'm like, good. I'm not against him doing that, and I hope it's successful. It's a big world here. We don't need to, sit here and try to be like, you can't do that. That's what I do.
Right.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But of course, we fell in love with it because we of course got to see it in the beginning, and then it evolved, and like I said, it's entertaining, and I learn something every time I watch. Some of the things I know, but most of it is new information every time, and I think that's been the magic right there.
Yeah, I think it's a good combination. I wouldn't say we script these, but some of them are, pretty well thought out from start to finish, and a lot of work goes into it. Probably way too much for a 30-second short, to tell you the truth. But there's a lot of just, okay, how are we going to stage this to where it has a catch, it has some good information, and then it has maybe an opinion or just something that's just a little entertaining or something at the end to give it to them. So it's just kind of rounds the whole thing together. And we can see where if we don't use that formula, that video does not do as good as the next video. But you can't make every video the perfect video either. So,
right. So watching your short videos and your long videos, it's obvious you have quite a stable of cars and trucks to choose from. How
Yes,
many
sir.
would you say you got right now?
So I was raised into a family of people that enjoy cars and car-based activities. So we have had a lot of cars sitting around, and we've had, lesser and more over the years. I think right now, we just bought another one recently. We're somewhere in the 30s. I mean, it's mid 30s, somewhere around there. I did have this rule for a long time because they're kind of spread out over multiple properties because you can't keep them all in one place. You got to make deals with people to leave things there when you buy them. Because that's a problem you got to have is when somebody calls and says, hey, can I sell this truck? And I'm like, why are you asking me? Because it's yours. I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot. I have a truck there. But we did get to the point where I do live in town. So a lot of my stuff's kept at different places that are not in town. But I get issues with the city when I get too many things sitting around. And I like to know all the rules, and I like to bend the rules as much as I possibly can. And just this year, we did end up losing a lot of storage for the winter. Like 3 different places we stored stuff all kind of backed out on us. It was weird. It was like, oh, great. Now we have no storage. Cool.
Right.
So right now, there is 13 vehicles sitting in my driveway and in my yard. So it's like, yeah, that's a problem. Probably should do something about that. So next year, the goal is going to be more, let's build a building where things go inside of.
Yes.
Because paying for storage is not, it's not good when people kind of pull the rug out from underneath you and go, that thing you always did for the last few years? Yeah, we sold that building. So good luck.
Yep. So we have our ordinance is it has to either be behind a fence or tarps. So I just bought a lot of tarps and we're good to go.
Yeah, I invested a lot of money not to plug. Maybe they'll sponsor me. Sealskin car covers. You can send me a sponsorship because I bought like 6 of those things and they're not cheap. But I didn't want to buy them again next year, so we're trying them out.
So if somebody in the audience knows sealskin car covers, send them dudes' way.
Exactly. I was researching it, and it's the one commercial that just kept blasting itself at me through Instagram and YouTube, and I was like, well, maybe the algorithm knows something. I don't know.
Yep. Like Amazon knows what you want before you buy it.
Exactly.
So out of all of those, I have a few of my favorites of your vehicles. Which one would you say right now is your favorite?
So I have this problem where I enjoy vehicles. And there was a time in my life where I may have potentially been a GM guy or a Pontiac guy or a Buick guy. I'm a closet Buick guy. But I don't own one right now, so I can't say I am. Do I own one? I don't know. I do own one. I own 2. Never mind. I have Buicks.
There you go. See? You just take a minute.
Yeah, I didn't think about it. But where am I going with this? Sorry, off track. I enjoy all cars, so it's really hard for me to pick a specific. This is my favorite one, and when you work on all of them equally, you learn to hate every one of them for something. So, favorite one right now today is I have a 67 Galaxy that I enjoy driving, probably more than I should. And that's probably my favorite today, if you asked me.
Right.
Only because the 67 Chevelle, the motor's in pieces in the lower garage. Or I'd probably enjoy it more. But it all comes down to, if I can't enjoy it, I don't enjoy it.
Right. Yep. I do love the Chevelles for sure. They are beautiful cars.
Well, you said you had some snow flying. Do you get out your cars when it's snowing?
I don't. Living in the Midwest, it's not so much the snow that I worry about. It's the amount of let's call it brine. Brine they put on the streets everywhere to really salt up your vehicle, and that stuff doesn't come off easy. So I have one truck that I drive a lot in the winter, and I'm okay with it rusting. So it's like, here it is.
I won't drive my car. I usually won't drive it. Like, I'll drive it if it's cold or anything. I don't really drive it in the rain too much, but after it snows, it's got to rain a couple times and wash all that crap off the road before I'll even think about getting my Pontiac out of the garage.
Yep. And I would enjoy it if I lived in maybe a drier, warmer place. Maybe I'd have more time to enjoy my vehicles. But I do like having 4 seasons, and believe it or not, I do like the snow. And I used to redo a lot of trucks, and that was kind of my first, hey, this is what I do, is I work on trucks. And I later got into working on more cars after the fact, but there was a lot of times where it was just like, we just build trucks and then go beat them around in the mud and snow, and it is what it is.
Yep.
If you lived in Missouri,
usefulness there.
If you lived in Missouri, you could get the benefit of all 4 seasons in one day.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're kind of right there too.
It's
turn on your AC and your heat in one day in Kansas.
No. In Iowa, it gets to that point where it stays right on the border of cold and colder. And then once it gets colder, then you're good for a while, and then it kind of transitions back into warmer. We never get too warm, and there is sometimes it gets really cold, but it usually doesn't stay there very long.
Yeah, I've been to Iowa several times. I actually went skiing and tubing there on I guess it was a hill.
Oh yeah, we don't have too many of those. So
no,
I thought Iowa was pretty flat.
Usually I go the other way and go to Colorado, but my sister was doing she was a traveling respiratory therapist, and they can ski and snowboard here. They've got a lift and everything. And I went,
sure.
Yeah. And I went, and it did exist. They made their snow, but it did exist.
Yeah, we actually have a hill in town that they have big snow machines, and they put snow all over it just to make sure it's consistently has snow. Yep. And then they go tubing down it. I've never went because it's like $50 to get a ticket to go down a hill, and I'm not really interested. So.
Right.
They've got that figured out, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Hey, little Streetcar Chronicles there.
Yeah.
Hey, popcorn's in the house.
And Danny Boyd, well, he's not popcorn anymore. He fixed it.
He'll always be popcorn. It's on one of my videos.
I actually started watching him because my first car was a 80 Chevy Malibu. That was the first car I bought with my money and threw a bunch of time and effort at. And it was never fast or good, but it was the exact same color as his Malibu, but it was a 4-door. So it's like, that car reminds me a lot. It's like, yeah, that's what I always wanted to do with my car. And then I just bought cooler cars, but not to say that that's not a cool car, but
yeah, my Concho's a cool car.
Yeah, mine was a 4-door, so less cool than that car.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I kind of like 4-doors myself. I mean,
yes.
I don't have a lot of them, but I don't discriminate on doors. I'll take them all.
Well, the thing to remember is when you're enjoying a car, you're usually enjoying it from the inside. So extra doors really don't bother you that much when you're in the car. It's just everybody else looking at it.
Easier for friends to get in. That's the way I looked at it.
Well, and when you're behind the wheel, can you tell a difference between the 4-door? Like a Le Mans, you can't tell the difference between a 4-door and a 2-door Le Mans if you're looking out over the hood.
Nope. So,
yep.
I'm not going to discredit any 4-door, only because I own too many of them, but hey,
Well, they used to be cheap, but...
Well, they still are cheaper than their 2-door counterpart about 80% of the time, so...
It is true. It is true.
I mean, I just got a 4-door for free, so...
If you go the other way and you go to like a 4-door wagon, those have now gone, and you don't get to touch one of those no more. When those used to be the dime a dozen cars, so
right. And so, like when I go to the honey hole where I got my car from, I asked the guys, like, "How come you only have 1 or 2 wagons?" And he goes, "Well, son, back in my day, nobody wanted them, so we would strip the fronts off of them, and then scrap them, or people would try to derby them."
Yep.
And so he only has 1 or 2 wagons that are left, and I mean, I'll be honest, I want to go get both of them, but it's just, time and money. But he's got lots of 2-door stuff. He got a ton of pickups, but the wagons they're all gone.
A long-term goal for me is I've been looking at wagons for a while, and they are one of the next things I want to get into. I think it'd be cool to do, power tour, drag and drive events with one.
Yeah.
But I've kind of narrowed it down because, you look at Chevelle wagons and all your big Le Mans wagons and stuff that's cool. Just to buy one that runs and drives is basic, not even that nice. It's a lot of money. And it's like, wow, I'm not going to buy it and then restore the whole thing and double what's into it. I'd rather just be able to enjoy it. So we've kind of rolled back to, I'd like to find a G-body wagon just because I think it would be fun to own and you could do a lot with it. There's a lot of aftermarket. And you're not going to break the bank trying to get one up front. But find one, because that's my problem is I haven't been able to find a nice one in a long time.
I could find you one. I know where there's 2 or 3 sitting, actually.
Really?
One of them is a Pontiac Le Mans wagon. It's a G-body.
Hey.
Now, see, that seems like it's right up our alley.
See, long-term goals, and I wouldn't want to ruin one if somebody wants a Pontiac one, but my long-term goal would be to put a Regal front end on it and actually make a Grand National wagon.
Oh,
Yeah.
that
I
would
can see
be
that.
that would be sweet. Yeah.
Now, if you could actually put the Grand National guts in it, just make it that much better.
I have a different plan for guts, but it's going to be.
Well, it comes down to, we won't get into that debate, but do you put the Pontiac? Do you put the Buick? I mean, what do you put in it? And for me, it's like whatever gets me down the road.
Yeah, and I've heard that, and that's, I'm not against anybody that puts anything in anything. Anymore, right. People put crazy stuff in everything.
Hemis in a Chevy, and Fords in a Dodge, and there's nothing off limits anymore.
I've been always on the safer side of let's get it running and driving to begin with, and then we'll figure it out from there. If it's cheaper and more affordable to swap in something else to make it go, then that's a perfectly good idea. But for in my camp, I'm more of a brand to brand. So if it's a Ford, it's probably going to get a Ford motor. It might not be what was in it originally. Could be some upgraded new something, but it's probably going to stay a Ford. Chevy's going to stay a Chevy. Buick's going to stay a Buick. Pontiac's going to stay a Pontiac. So that's just my opinion. I'm not big into swapping in. Now, if you go into a foreign market car, let's say a Volvo, you could put whatever you want in there, and I'm not going to be opposed to it because it never came with something worth keeping, and I'm not going to go out and find a better Volvo motor to put in a Volvo. So swap away.
Ryan has a secret. Tell us your secret, Ryan.
Yeah, let's hear it. Everybody get the
While
popcorn.
we're waiting on that, Hunter says no LS swaps, but I kind of ran an idea by Ray today, and we're going to have an episode in the future, and I'm just saying it's going to happen. I think we're going to dedicate the whole episode to the worst Pontiac ever made, which the Pontiac Aztec, so they say. People say it's one of the ugliest cars ever made.
Oh, which one was it?
So I'm thinking I need
have
to take
conjecture
one
on that subject. But.
All right, and that's what we're here to talk about. So my thing was I was going to take one that's basically garbage and gut it, lay it down on a proper chassis.
There's actually a couple people that have already done that.
Yeah, I think I need to do that. I think it would go perfect with my channel, and people would be like, "Man, that thing's ugly." And yeah, it is. It was cheap too. But let's see what it does in the 8th mile. So that was.
I think a lot of people they discredit the Aztec because it was just ahead of its time. In my mind, I think that was a vehicle that it originated a lot of ideas that we currently still do today that nobody likes to admit to. But that was the flagship design idea for all the crossovers moving forward. So you can be mad at it all you want, but you need to get mad at everything that came from it too. So.
I think the big part where they failed that was when they were coming up with the concept for it. It was supposed to be like a cross between like a Firebird and a Blazer mashed together, and it was going to have a wide track suspension and true like Cyclone or Typhoon style.
We all know all the concepts are way cooler than anything that actually is coming out.
So that's kind of the direction they were going.
This guy up here has a Fiero. That's a perfect example of where we should have been to where we ended up.
And then, they went, well, we've got this minivan chassis. We'll just shorten it and throw a body on it. And anyway. Oh, look, Barrows, he'd rather have the Aztec than a Pontiac 6000.
Oh, a little old celebrity. Come on now, celebrities weren't terrible.
You could get a Pontiac 6000 wagon.
You could.
Yep.
I've actually seen a celebrity wagon converted, and they used the back of an S10 cab, and they converted it into a front-wheel drive El Camino. And
Ooh.
when you looked at it, you were like, "Is this an S10? Is this like?" You didn't know what it was because
Right.
of the little cover and the tailgate and everything. And that's when you realized, "Oh, crap, this is a wagon!" Like they did it so well that it looked like an El Camino.
That's pretty good when you can't tell, you know?
Yep.
My parents had one of those Pontiac 6000 wagons. It was blue with wood grain, and I was so embarrassed to ride in it. But now I wish I had it. I'm
Right.
like, I would drive the crap out of that.
That's
thing.
what I'm saying. Like people talk crap on it, but at the same time, I'm going, I would probably own a wagon and drive it.
I actually was just bought a car at an auction, and they actually had quite a few one-off, low-mileage, front-wheel drive 80s cars, you know, little 2.8s and all those. And it kind of blew me away, but then afterwards, I really thought about it. I'm like, I wouldn't have given the money these guys were giving for these cars, but I was there to pick up the car I bought, and they were there to pick up their car, and I kind of started talking to them and said, so why'd you give $5,000 for an 86 LeSabre? You know, like what's the thought there? And he's like, well, it's got 20,000 original miles. The interior's new. It's got plastic on the seats. And he said, I have one right now that I daily. And he said, I can use it as parts and I can drive this car. And I've been driving that car for 15 years.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, I guess for $6,000 and you have a parts car and you know you're just going to keep driving it the same way you have. Maybe that's worth the commitment of that kind of money for a basic front wheel drive 80s car. But there's people that just love them, and they've always been dependable for them. So I can't really argue with them about that because you don't ever know what you're getting with a used car these days. So,
and he had a plan for it. It's one of those where if you just go to an auction and you bid it all up, and then you get home and go, what am I going to do with this $10,000, Fiat?
Yeah.
You don't know. But now you're looking at it going, oh wait, I actually have a plan for this, and that's why I'm willing to spend it. So I guess I'll give him that.
And I will say this, anybody that gets disillusioned by low mileage vehicles needs to own a few of them and realize low mileage doesn't mean anything when it's 30 years old.
Right.
It means you're the guy that's going to replace everything. And bushings that would have been fine if you would have drove it are now completely gone. There's body mounts completely gone. And you're doing things that never should have ever had to been replaced on a 20,000 mile car.
Right. Well, it's like when people open a container and find a, 50 mile or 100 mile third gen Camaro. Yep. It's really cool to see it still all in the plastic and everything.
And you should put that in a museum.
And never drive it because it's completely worthless as it sits.
Yeah, you saw that video.
It's got value, but not to somebody like us that drives cars.
Yes. Well, and that's the difference, so there's, and I've had this discussion with other people before. So you can call yourself a car enthusiast. You can call yourself a car guy. There's a lot of titles for what we are and what we do. But it does come down to, I do label a car enthusiast as a person that doesn't have an interest in driving the car. They just admire them. They enjoy the facts, and they like to go and treat their car like it's a Hot Wheels. And that's fine. Those people, I don't have any issue with that. But it is kind of a different when somebody starts going, you shouldn't drive that. It's low mileage. And it's like, no, I'm going to drive it. That's kind of why I own it. So
watch and see what I'm about to do to this low model car.
Exactly. So we have a 66 Impala that we bought for my wife because she just wanted a 66 four-door hardtop Impala, period. That's what she wanted. So I looked for a long time to get the right one. And when we came across the one we bought, it was 20,000 miles original car.
Wow.
And it's kind of like one of those like, no, it's not. We'll go look at it. This guy's full of whatever.
It's 120 or whatever.
Yeah. It's like it's been restored. Something's up with this. And we drove 8 hours to even go look at it. It was just like, hey, let's go check this thing out. It's the right price. And he's saying it's low mileage. So we drove 8 hours. When we were driving up to the driveway, it was like, oh my, I don't even know if I can offer this guy less than what he's asking, and it's bought, and I don't even know if it runs because this car was so straight. And so I was like, okay, cool. And we got out, we looked it all over, and it's like, this is an original 20,000 mile car. And I cannot believe that this exists. Like, it's just, runs and drives, and the only thing that had ever been changed on is the wheels and tires.
Wow.
That's it. And it's like, and he had the original wheels and tires. He's like, here's the original wheels and tires. The plastic was still on the spare tire. He's like, no one's ever taken that plastic off the spare tire. And when I got it home, that's the first thing I did. I told my wife, I said, I get to be the first person to take the plastic off the spare tire.
That's a special moment right there.
Yeah. And I mean, we went through and we had to replace everything on it. I mean, all the suspension was just done. I mean, it was like, okay, well, it's 20,000 miles, but it's all sacked out because it's just been sitting.
Right.
And it had Delco shocks. It's one of those things where it's like, this was before AC was part of the game, you know? It's like, it's like, okay, cool. You know, and we got the backstory on the car, and it was a one-owner car, special ordered in California. The old man drove it maybe 10,000 miles total, and then he donated it to a classic car museum. And then the classic car museum had it forever. They donated it to an auction house that auctioned off classic cars in Chicago. And they used it as a promotional vehicle is what they said. So they would bring people in, they'd drive it. So they did a bunch of work to it to make it run and drive. And they would drive people around in it and then upsell them to a better car. You know, like, hey, you should get the Chevelle. You should get the, you know. So then they sold it to the guy that we bought it from, and he'd only owned it 2 years. So it literally had one owner, 2 companies, and this guy since its conception.
Wow.
And when we got it, he told us the whole story, and he said, yeah, I only bought this because I've been having a 65 Chevy Biscayne fully restored for the past 7 years. And he said, I bought this one just so I could remember what it felt like, because he was about an 80-year-old man. And he said he had sank everything into this 65 Impala. He said, it's full tube chassis, LS. He goes, I got $40,000 in the paint.
Wow.
And he said, I only have one garage, so this has to get sold. And it was just kind of like, all right. And he said multiple people came from all over the country to look at this car, and they said, you know, oh, it doesn't have the right motor. Oh, it can't be original miles. Oh, you know, they didn't believe the story, and they tried to lowball him real bad. And he's like, I'm not taking less than this number. And I'm like, cool. I'll give you that number because I believe everything you're saying right now, and I can look at this car and know that this is an original, unmolested, never touched car. And then looking back, it's like, I'll never find another one. And although it's not this super valuable car because it's a 4-door hardtop with an inline 6 and factory radio delete, but it does have power steering, power brakes. And I mean, we drive it. We've put a lot of miles on that car. And I've gone through the car front to back, fixed everything it's needed up to this point. And everybody's like, what are you going to do with it? I'm like, we're going to drive it until we decide something else to do with it.
And the key value of that car is that's the exact car she wanted.
Correct. And it's find another one at this point.
Right.
So you're not gonna.
Right.
And you said it, drive it.
Yep.
I get the show car thing, I really do, but my goodness, I cannot have a car that I'm not going to drive. Like, I could have a 1 of 10, you know, real, I don't know, Trans Am or something. I'm going to drive it.
Yep.
I don't care if it's worth $500,000. I'm still going to drive it and hope like hell nobody hits it.
If I had the budget to do a $40,000 paint job, then in my mind, I have the budget to drive it and deal with the fact that I'm going to get a bug chip or a scratch or rock chip. That's the way I look at it. If I have the money to put that kind of money into it, I'm still going to drive it because I don't buy a car to just look at it, you know, behind a velvet rope. I'm going to drive it. That's what it's all about.
I think anybody, I mean, you specifically, Mr. Punisher there, any car you build to go fast and you know you're going to make it go fast, you have to be knowing that you're willing to give that car up when that one tire, that one thing happens and it slaps a wall and you just go, well, it was fun while it lasted, you know?
Yeah.
I just recently posted a video of me beating the hell out of my car in a parking lot doing donuts and stuff.
With a Christmas tree on top, by the way. That was
tree on top
perfect.
Of it. I just finished the car and I've dumped, you know, a little bit of money into it. Not a lot, but I built it. I drive it like I did drive my Hot Wheels, actually. My Hot Wheels drifted everywhere.
But across the couch cushions. Yeah.
If I didn't think it would total it, I'd probably try to jump it. But I've seen Dukes of Hazzard, and you know, you see the landing views sometimes, and it doesn't go great.
No, it looks like it hurts a lot.
Yep.
But here's my New Year's resolution, and I kind of put it out there before. my New Year's resolution this year is I want to meet John Snyder. I'd really like to do a hood slide and maybe crawl in a door, but I want to meet him. And one of our regulars on here, Hunter, sent me a deal that he has a birthday party or a party every year at his place where they jump, Gen Release. And I'm thinking I might need to just take a trip over there and go do that.
Now, do they jump Gen Release or do they jump Crown Vics with
They're Crown Vics with, they're Crown Vics.
Hey,
yeah. Good call on that. But yeah.
So if everybody wants to buy some Buff's Garage merchandise to help him fulfill one of his dreams.
Yeah, the bucket list goals here.
Yep. You can join the channel membership. You can do a super chat. You can buy some merch. But no matter what, that's my goal this year. I mean, I don't have big goals. Like, I'm not trying to become famous and make $1 million. But if I could go shake John Snyder's hand before, life happens, then I'm going to go do that.
Don't be giving out your OnlyFans or Spicy page stuff on here, because this is a family show.
Correct.
We don't need to hear about you selling your feet pics or anything like that.
No, that's a Chad square body stuff thing. That's not for me.
Money's money. I mean, cars parts are expensive.
$20 is $20.
I've heard that lately. So, all right. Well, go ahead.
You was talking about, and somebody actually, Dan was talking about it. Those Crown Vics, the Panther platform is actually a really good platform of car. And I know this is a Pontiac show, so maybe I'll put a 455 in a Crown Vic Panther platform car. But I'm just saying, for somebody who wanted to get into like somewhat of a performance car for cheap that handles good, you can't beat those Panther platform cars.
And the reality of that has been well acclaimed, and that's why the value has gone through the roof compared to 5-10 years ago.
Well, plus Cletus bought them all up.
Oh yeah, but I mean, fun fact: they are the last American-made body-on-frame car there was. So that's it. I mean, 2011, that was last one. There is no more
Danny
after.
Boyd, that's what we're talking about. A 455 Crown Vic. That's exactly.
So if somebody wants to donate me a 455 Pontiac and a Crown Vic, I will do it.
Yeah, we'll make that happen. Pontiac 455. I got an Oldsmobile 455 right there.
I mean, well, it'll do in a pinch, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I bought that for no good reason.
Hey, man, that stuff's hard to find now. If I come across deals like that, I'm going to pick it up too.
This was a guy that was hoarding a lot of stuff, and he was essentially needing to get out of the building he was in, and he was setting up for an auction. And I just happened to know a couple people that knew him, and they're like, yeah, he's just looking to sell stuff to help him get the auction going, so he needs money now. He said, so go down there and look through some stuff, making some offers. So I got Olds 455. It's had a lot of work done to it at some point. It has different heads, aftermarket intake, built transmission, but it's been sitting in the back of a shed for who knows how long. And I gave him $200 and loaded it in the truck. So It was like, I don't know what I'm doing with that, but I have it.
You can tie an Oldsmobile engine to Pontiac because in 79 and 80, they put the 403 Oldsmobile.
Yes, they did.
I mean, it's completely
I don't know why, but they did.
That's not the 6.6 I would want in my Trans Am.
No. I actually was, me and a buddy of mine came across two Trans Ams. It was like a 77 and a 78. One had a 455, and one we thought was a 400, but it actually ended up being a 403. The guy was selling them as a pair because the one with the 403 in it was the nicer car. The other car was a factory 455, but it was a basket case. So his whole thing was just take the 455 out, put it in this car. And at the time, me and my buddy were like, no, we kind of just want to buy them and each have a car.
Right.
And we couldn't come to a number that we could both agree on equally because it's like, well, if you buy that one, there's no car left, but it has the motor. And if I buy this one, it has all the car, but it has the motor that no one wants. So we kind of both went, we both came here thinking we were going to get a deal. And after looking at these cars, we're going to have to pass. And I think the next guy came in and gave him, I think, the $6,000 he wanted for both cars and walked away going, I'm going to build me a really cool 455. And they were both automatic cars. That was another one where it was just like, it'd be cooler if one of them was a stick.
Right.
Well, John Wilburn snuck in here.
I saw that.
Yeah, I never understood why they put the 403 in there. They have all their reasons. They claim, it was more efficient. but it's like, why? Because
Right.
you didn't put your foot in it because you knew it wasn't going to do any good. Like,
Yeah. You just put your foot down and go, this is a wasted effort.
yeah.
Well, starting in 77, the Firebird really got bastardized because in 77 on the regular Firebird Esprit, you could get a 305, a 3.8 liter Buick V6. You could get the 350 Pontiac. I mean, it was a mess because I've owned a bunch of Firebirds and I've had every one of them had a different engine in it, I think.
Yep. See, we like to be a little more optimistic about those kind of cars, and we call them unicorn cars, just because they could just have anything. They're special.
Right. You never know.
Never know until you look.
It's like some corporate head at GM's like, hey, we got a bunch of these. We need to put them in something.
Well, it's the same idea. So, Buff's got that 3800 powered Grand Prix. Well, Grand Prix are pretty much, you get a 3800 with a supercharger, you get a 3800, and that's what you get.
Yep.
Then you jump over to the Monte Carlo, and the Monte Carlo is the unicorn car. You could get a 3.4, you could get a 3.8, you could get any number of weird option. Like, it's all Monte Carlo, and it says SS on it, but that don't mean anything either. So,
right.
This meant leather.
Yep.
I had a 92 Grand Prix GT that had that 3400 dual cam or quad cam V6.
Yep.
You want to talk about that thing was quick.
Yep.
And it had torque steer. You did not want to not have your hands on the steering wheel too good when you launched it because you may go right, you may go left. You don't know.
So I said I'm a closet Buick guy because previously I owned Buick Regal GSs with the supercharged 3800 and put entirely too much money and effort in those cars. Like, 8 trannies worth of too much effort.
Right.
So torque steer is a thing. And it's a bad thing when it starts breaking axles and taking out transaxles on transmissions.
I have a feeling that if the all-wheel drive Trans Am's ready for no name, pretty sure we're gonna snap some axles on that.
Oh yeah.
But that's an if because we haven't seen the announcement date on that.
I still want to know how you're putting that together. I haven't been paying attention enough to know the facts.
Because I haven't really revealed it yet.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Coming soon, as soon as John puts a number on that orange piece of paper, I'm going to do the big reveal on the channel, and we're going to talk about how and why, and maybe just don't ask why. Maybe just how.
Because I have a 3rd gen Camaro, and I stare at it going, all-wheel drive, huh?
Don't do what I'm going to do.
Exhaust doesn't fit under these.
Correct.
So how are we going to go all-wheel drive?
I'm going to show you. It's going to be exactly what no one else should do.
Okay.
But I paid $200 for my shell, so.
Well, then you can't beat that.
Right.
I paid $700 for my shell, but it's a car now. So.
Right. It's
I've seen that. And you drive this without a mullet.
So there was a video about this a long time ago, and I was raised on 3rd gen Camaros. My dad enjoys them heavily, which, I drove around a lot in them as a kid, and he had a pretty well-built 3rd gen Camaro growing up that made a lot of people. Yeah, back in the day when you could have a well-built 3rd gen Camaro, people didn't just automatically think it was some, race car, and it would shock and amaze people, And when I came across the one I had, it was just one of those. I don't love 3rd gen Camaros at all. I don't. But it's one of those, it's a memory car for me.
Right.
I just had to have one. It was the right deal. I literally had some small blocks lying around like everyone should have, And the neighbor needed money, and he was building it with his son, and it turned into hey, if you give me $700, you can have this whole car, and all it needs is a motor, and it's been lowered, new UMI suspension, built transmission, built rear end. All the interior's been replaced, 60,000 original mile car. It's just like, okay, roll it into my garage. Here's cash. Go away.
For sure.
So I own a Camaro now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to hit trivia. We can keep talking, but I'm going to hit trivia. There we go.
Sponsored by Super Clean.
Pontiac Trivia is sponsored by Super Clean. And that reminds me, send me your address so I can get you a prize pack from Super Clean.
Okay.
All right. So we were on the third gens, but I might or might not have a third gen question in here. I don't remember. But my first question of the night, and you guys, as always, join into the chat, answer the question, and we'll see who gets the best score. We are not keeping track of. What year did Pontiac change out its classic emblem of a Native American headdress with the V and star arrowhead logo? Is it 1945, B 1953, C 1959, or D 1962?
I have a guess.
We'll go for it. Yes.
I think it'd be C.
We've got some C's. We got some D's. I'm waiting to see Hunter because Hunter is my go-to. Oh, he says 1953.
In my
Mongo
mind,
says 59.
I can picture the Native American on a 53, but I can't on a 59.
I felt like I remember it on a 58.
I
7 or 58.
I think it's 59. That's my guess.
We got answers all over the place. Nobody thinks it's 45, which that's fine. I got to throw in one that's obvious. It was 1959. Oh, Hunter, too late, buddy. Too late. Yep, it's 1959 when they made the switch from the headdress to the now, arrowhead and cross design.
It has nothing to do with Indians. Trust us.
Nothing at all.
Nope.
It's not an arrowhead, it's a triangle shape.
Correct.
So Mongrel's not wrong. They designed it in 56, but they didn't fully replace it until 59.
I believe that.
Oh, I do have an Aztec question in here. I thought I did. I was looking at Aztecs today, and so
Here we go.
looking at Marketplace.
We're going to hear Hunter complaining about prototypes now.
All right, Hunter, and everybody else in the chat. But Pontiac Aztec has been condemned as one of the worst Pontiacs ever by a lot of people. But what was the prototype called? Was it the A, Bear Claw, the B, Tijuana, the C, the Badger, or D, the Split Fire?
I don't know this one.
I have no idea.
I didn't know until today.
I would guess.
Today.
I hope it's Tijuana.
No. So they were devised around a lot of camping.
Correct.
So there's only two names in there that I would guess based on that idea. I'm not.
Here we go with prototypes.
You know what? If we're going to guess, I'd say C, the Badger.
That's what I did too.
C and C and D.
Can't beat the honey badger.
Because the bear claw's a donut.
True. And I didn't feel it has enough presence to be calling it a bear. So
It had a cooler in the console.
did it? I just remember the pop-out tent
itself was a cooler that you took out of the vehicle.
Oh, no, that's a silhouette.
And do you know how many car manufacturers took that idea and ran with it?
My wife had a Dodge.
Oh, they had one in a Toyota, didn't they?
Yeah.
No, Caravan.
Almost nobody.
Caravan did it.
Yeah, a few of them, but almost nobody.
Caravan, I think, even had an ice maker in there.
But did they have their own tent that you could put on the back? Yeah, see.
No, they did not.
But my Avalanche did.
Did they?
Yep, you could get a tent for your Avalanche and then fold your midgate down.
Did not know that about avalanches.
And look at it today. That is a big thing.
It is. Overlanders or whatever they call them.
So we got a lot of Badgers. People really thought this thing should be called the Badger. And the reason why they named it the Aztec is because they built them in Mexico. Hence the Tijuana. However, it was the Bear Claw.
Bear Claw. Ugh. Yeah, it was doomed from conception.
Doomed from conception. Now, if you talk about the Trans Am meets, Typhoon type Blazer, that's more what the concept was looking at. But when they put it on that minivan chassis, it just didn't quite work out.
I'm just not a fan of that at all.
I mean,
Would you rather have a real Aztec?
looks like the head of a T-Rex.
It
Kind of does.
kind of has a snout like a badger. I mean, but it was a bear claw. I don't know.
I feel like somebody was drawing a dinosaur and it came out as a car. Oh,
And personally, I like bear claws. Okay, so the pace car for 1980 Indianapolis 500 was a 1980 Turbo Trans Am. Everybody remember that car? Beautiful
Yep.
car. Well, who drove the car at the race? Was it A, Burt Reynolds, B, Johnny Rutherford, C, Mario Andretti, or D, Johnny Parsons?
I'm going to say A just because that was popular for what was going on with movies at the time.
I can picture Burt Reynolds actually in the leather jacket that says Turbo Trans Am down the arms. I've
cannot.
seen it, but I don't know if that's what it's from.
I would think he would wear one that says, Indianapolis 500.
But I'm also thinking it could be Mario Andretti. I don't know.
Well, let's see. Danny Boyd says B or C. Hunter says A. I mean, Burt could pull it off if anybody could. We got a
Dakota says
Mario
Burt
Andretti.
Reynolds the only one he's ever heard of, so he'll go with A.
I've heard of all of them, but I'm thinking publicity stunt. So
Right. Barrow says D.
You would be coming off of the popularity of Smokey and the Bandit 1 and 2.
yep.
Yeah, that may have sold a Trans Am or two.
I mean, just not to Burt Reynolds, but you ever
Oh.
listen to his whole story on those things? How they were supposed to be giving him one, and then they decided, no, we're not doing that no more.
Hal Needham. That'd been a good one. All right. The answer is Johnny Parsons.
Oh, dang.
So Johnny Rutherford took first place at that Indy 500. And Mario Andretti took second. For the actual pace car, it was driven by former racer Johnny Parsons. And there's a picture of that beautiful car. All of them, actually.
So that's everyone they built. They just showed them all up at Indianapolis and said, here they are.
I wonder what they had to do to get it to go fast enough to pace the race, because that Turbo 301 would barely go 85.
It's probably gutted the entire car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is actually a cult following for that 301. I'm not sure
Really?
why.
Well, people like Iron Dukes too. So
Right.
I'm not spending $5 grand to go.
Here's the deal. People like the Iron Duke. I don't know if you guys followed the PRI show. I wanted
Oh,
to go.
yes.
Yeah. So
Inline 4 with an LS.
yes.
Blueprint
The
engines.
industrial blueprint engine that goes 1,800 RPM, 500 foot-pounds of torque with an LS head on. That's just.
And no way to fill the oil.
But
I don't
what was
know.
great was you hear the
Just go check
story
out that
from
picture.
Blueprint, right? Blueprint says, we almost brought this like as a gag and put it in the corner. And everybody would walk past all of our other engines to come look at this thing. And once they heard the specs on it, everybody, people want it now.
Yeah. I mean, they're putting that 4-cylinder in new Silverados with a turbo.
I mean, these guys were building that for forklifts. And they said, well, we can make it. I think they said they could put a 351 head on it. They could put an LS head on it. Run it in whatever you want.
Jesus, the guys at work would tear the hell out of everything with
And you could turbo it.
Yep.
You could just get real stupid real fast. And that's, that's fun too. All right, let's see. So, who originally owned the horse-drawn carriage production company, which later became Oakland Motor Car Company? And we all know that Oakland later became Pontiac. Was it A, John DeLorean, just because we like John? Was it B, Edward Murphy? Was it C, Bunky Knudsen, or D, Bob Lutz? If you're a Pontiac fan at all, you'll pretty much be able to round out every name on there.
I'm going to go with C.
My brain says B, only as a weird guess. And I don't know why I'm thinking Murphy beds, but that's what I'm thinking.
I just keep thinking Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, you got to do the
Murphy
laugh.
beds seem like a good idea. Yeah, that seems like somebody that could make a car company.
Let's see, we got Bunky, we've got Edward. We got several for Edward. Danny Boyd says he knows it wasn't the other three.
True.
All right. Well, it can only be one. It's like Highlander. How many? Oh, a lot of people are picking old Eddie Murphy here. Let's see what it is. It is Edward M. Murphy.
He didn't
Eddie-
also make a Murphy bed, did he?
I don't believe so. But he was really, really good at making buggies, horse-drawn carriages. But then he was like, he saw the writing on the wall. He knew it was coming. And so they actually kind of took an idea where Cadillac turned it down, and they kind of ran with it and ended up with the Oakland.
If you ever want to do long-term history, Cadillac is a good company to talk about at some point.
For sure. And there's someone building a Cadillac that we're going to have on a guest in the next week or so. Well, 2 weeks. And I'm going to have a really hard time not venturing down that road and talking Cadillacs on the Pontiac show, because I really love that Cadillac build he's doing.
It's GM at least.
Yeah, at least. It's a beautiful car. It was a
They
beautiful
weren't
car before
originally.
Was it? What?
Pontiac, I heard Cadillac was actually going to be part of Ford for a while.
Oh.
People don't know that.
I had a 78 Firebird with a 500 Caddy in it. I'm just saying.
I've driven a 500 Caddy ambulance before, and that was pretty awesome.
Well, you can't beat that motor. It's
All right, it's 9 o'clock. Let's hit this last one. What is the factory option code? And this one's for you guys at Punisher Le Mans Garage. What's the factory option code for adding T-tops on your 88 Pontiac Fiero? Was it A, AD3, B, WS6, C, PON, or D, CJB?
I believe
Some people actually know these things.
I believe it's D, actually.
You believe so?
I believe so.
If anyone's going to know, it's going to be you. What does our group think? Well, Mr. Polo says it's A.
Yeah, well.
Mongrel says it's D. I just want to point out, depending on how this one goes, Mongrels hasn't missed a one yet.
I would like to note, I do not like T-tops.
Interesting.
For reasons.
Besides water intrusion?
Well, that's one of them. Noise, and so many things. I don't know any of the suffix codes for T-tops because, maybe I should learn them, but I can visibly see T-tops and know that I don't need to look at the suffix codes. So I only use suffix codes for, is it limited slip differential? What size motor is supposed to be in it from the factory? I know all those ones, but
right.
T-tops is a visual thing. I don't need to know the suffix code for that.
Right. But I had a feeling at least one person would know. A WS6 Fiero. That is an option code for Fiero, yes.
Yes. Means it handles kind of better than the others.
just a little. Yeah. At least by 88 anyway.
Yes, at least by 88.
So we didn't get a lot of answers.
They upgraded citation suspension to celebrity suspension.
Correct. But it was D, CJB, and Punisher got it right. And that is your beautiful Fiero with T-tops.
I want that, actually. I'm looking for a 88 T-top Fiero because 88 was the only year that they had T-tops, and they're freaking hard to find.
So,
do I know my co-host or do I know my co-host?
When I sit in a car, I sit kind of taller than a normal person. I'm ill-proportioned. So T-tops always have a lower roof line just because of the height of everything. So to sit in a T-top car, a car that has a roof that you can take off, is actually rubs your head more, and then you end up taking the roof off and then go, look, my head actually sticks out the top because these things are great.
Right. Now see, one more piece of trivia that we didn't know, that the T-top roof is actually a little lower. That's good to know. But with that, we want to thank our guest, Dudes with Wrenches. We want to thank Super Clean for sponsoring the show. It was amazing. We appreciate having you, man. Like, we really want to have you back for sure, because I know that you come in and hang out in the chat. And it's been great. We appreciate having you.
I bounce around.
Well, we loved having you. I think that's all I got for this week. What about you, Ray?
Yeah, I think that's it, buddy.
All right, so we'll catch you guys next week. We got 2 more shows for our month of December Christmas, and with that, here we go.